With the protocols update, they introduced the Force Greatsword, and with it, full melee Psyker aggression has come onto the table. So of course we're going to do a build around that. Here's the pips for those looking for a TLDR. The primary advantage of the build is that it kills ads stupid fast and is pretty good against most special enemies, except those in carapace. The build has decent enough toughness and a lot of regen, so it can run damnation maelstroms without too much trouble. The downside is that when you aren't killing, you become vulnerable. Anyways, let's move on to the pips for the build. Okay, so we start off by grabbing mettle. We're going to be in melee a lot, so the toughness and movespeed are a must-have. For the same reason, we are going to grab quitude. We are going to be using Scrier's Gaze to increase peril rapidly, and a blessing on our blade is going to be clearing out a lot of the peril generated. To that same end, we are going to be grabbing warp expenditure. Now there's toughness gain when our peril goes up, and even more when the peril goes down, both of which are going to be happening nearly constantly. Next, we grab our assail. Assail is quick to cast and is fire and forget. Though we aren't going to be using it very often, of the options this one is the best fit. These three to the right are good for any melee Psyker stuff, but if you aren't using the Blazing Spirit Blessing, it's probably better to drop Souldrinker for warp splitting. Next, we grab prescience for our increased crit, one with the warp to make toughness gain go further, then finally our Scrier's Gaze. The 2 pips on either sides of it gives us toughness damage reduction and move speed while the buff is up. The rest of these really aren't that important, until we get to our keystone. Disrupt Destiny will light up enemies, and if you kill them, you will get a critical damage bonus, a weak point damage bonus, as well as a temporary move speed and a quick shot of toughness. It's kind of the perfect fit for the build. On difficulties less than damnation, I recommend going to the right side pip here, as it increases the time before losing stacks, and makes downtime less punishing. If you're playing on damnation, the increase in mob density for the most part gets rid of the downtime, so we're going to be going to the left side for the increased max stacks. Last one is kind of take it or leave it. We're going to be cycling peril fast enough, I don't think it is needed. But hey, it still helps a little bit. That's it for the key pips, the rest here are non-critical, but feel free to copy them. Because we are running Scrier's Gaze, I highly recommend the Blessing Murderous Tranquility, as it makes it where if you hit 3 or more enemies, it reduces the peril. This will keep your Scrier's Gaze up for a lot longer. The second perk is based on playstyle. If you really like the Greatsword special attack, then taking Warp Slice to make it crit every 15 seconds is really good. A lot of our build is buffing crit and weak point hits, so this will skyrocket the damage from the slice. I've not figured out whether or not the ranged shot queues up Blazing Spirit. It might be the replacement for Tranquility for those who just love to use the wave. If not, then I'd recommend plus cleave per swing as the secondary blessing. For a ranged weapon, we want something to make up for how much we suck against crushers. For that, I'd recommend the Electro Staff if you're good at managing peril and don't mind juggling weapons. If not, then the Bolt Pistol might be the way to go for you. For trinkets, I'd recommend one with stam, one with toughness, and one for a wound. For secondary rolls, I put stam regen on 2 of them, corrupt resist on all of them, 2 damage resist from gunners, and 2 toughness boosts. The stam regen is nice because it keeps us sprinting longer. The more we sprint, the more we move, the more we're able to keep Scrier's Gaze up. Ability cooldown reduction is also fine. The gameplay of the build is rather simple. Activate ability, charge in. Always try to be hitting 3 or more enemies with the wide sweeps. If you hit ragers or anything that is a regular sized person but also a threat, either use the block push to push them to the ground and then focus them down, or if your team isn't near you, just simply back up. When it comes to elites that are bigger than the regular Joe, you generally need to back up, swap to a ranged weapon and focus them down. Sometimes you get away with just bashing on them with a blade, and on rare occasions, they don't aggro to you and choose someone else, so you just ignore them and continue to kill the little guys. The actual skill of this build comes with the dodging. You have a lot of regen on your toughness, but not a lot of raw toughness itself. This means your dodging needs to be on point against elites. A single crusher or mauler heavy hit, and you're out. Light hits, for the most part, aren't a game ender, but they can still do a lot of damage, so you need to be cautious. That's about it for now. Now go out there and give them heretics a beating. Until next time, bye.